With action finally being taken by Las Vegas police regarding the murder of Tupac, in this series we're going to look into the infamous murder of rap icon Notorious BIG and break down the various theories into that case in the hope that one day Biggie and his family can get the closure they deserve. Join me as I break down the different theories in the hope of finding out which one is the truth and which one actually makes sense. Biggie, aka Christopher Wallace, was gunned down outside the Peterson Auto Museum on the 9th of March 1997 in a drive-by shooting. This was no accident. It wasn't a spur-of-the-moment killing. This was a targeted attack. That means there were plans put in place by people to have him killed. This involves various stages of planning and multiple people being involved. There have been many theories about the murder of Biggie, some very ridiculous ones and some that seem spot on. The two theories that are most spoken about are Russell Poole's theory and the theory by Greg Kading. So let's compare these two theories against each other and look at the details in these theories and see how they stack up. Let's get started. So what is the basis of each theory? Let's start with the Russell Poole theory. Poole believed that disgraced LAPD officers David Mack and Rafael Perez were hired to kill Biggie, and that David Mack asked his college friend Harry Billups, aka Amir Muhammad, to help carry out the murder. Now the Greg Kading theory. Greg Kading, through the investigation done on the Biggie Taskforce, believes a known Compton Bloods gang member by the name of Wardell Poochie Fouse, aka Darnell Bolton, was hired to kill Biggie. Wow, okay, this is a good start. Both theories are allegedly a murder for hire. This makes comparison of the two theories a little more straightforward. Oh, and I forgot to mention, both theories believe that the individual that hired the suspects was the same person, and that person was supposedly none other than Marion Suge Knight. But where do we start? Well, if Suge Knight is the one that ordered the hit on Biggie, and we have our alleged suspects with both theories, let's start by looking at the connection, if any, between Suge and these suspects. Part 1. The connection. Suge Knight was the CEO of record company Death Row Records. He was from Compton, and in particular the mob Piru, Ludus Park, Blood neighborhood. Upon the success he began to have with Death Row Records in the early 90s, Suge not only gave jobs to some of his Bloods gang member associates, but he kept them around as his entourage to maintain the tough gangster image he wanted. This crew of street gangsters therefore acted unofficially as security by discouraging others from messing with Suge or Death Row artists because the connection to these gangs was on clear display by having them around. At the same time, these gang members hanging around drew negative attention from police and didn't protect the artists working with Death Row the way professional security could. It also didn't create for reliable witness accounts in the event of an incident, so Suge had professional security working for Death Row as well. For this he used Right Way Security, a security company ran by Reggie Wright Jr., who was an ex-Compton police officer. It was also known back then that quite often police officers would moonlight after hours as security for extra income. Right Way Security did hire some off-duty police officers as security. So, are these the two connections to Suge Knight for the two theories? Off-duty police officers working as security for Death Row, like Russell Poole's theory, and known street gangsters that were part of Suge's entourage hanging around Death Row, like Greg Kading's theory? Well, the connection in the Greg Kading theory is definitely there. This picture shows Suge Knight with Poochie and various other Bloods gangsters. But was Poochie a possible shooter? Because as it's known, not every gang member is a shooter. Some gangsters are robbers, some gangsters are fraudsters, some gangsters are drug dealers, and some are hitmen. You could say that gangsters can even be specialists in a particular field, meaning not all gang members do everything. So by logic, not every gang member is a hitman. Interviews on Vlad TV with James McDonald, aka Mob James, who was one of Suge's Blood gangster associates, acknowledges that Poochie was not only a Blood gangster that was part of their circle, but he had a reputation as a shooter.
I mean, number one, was Poochie known as a shooter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a hitter for real, for real.
Okay. So doing something like this would not be out of character?
Not at all.
Other interviews on Bone First by Compton Gang Unit Police Officer Robert Ladd, who knew Poochie, confirms Poochie's blood gang connections as well as his reputation as a shooter.
I knew Poochie very well. I investigated that guy on a lot of stuff, man. That guy was, like I say, I always say he's gangster. He's straight gangster, man. That guy did a lot of stuff. He was definitely an enforcer for Death Row Records. I investigated him on a shooting earlier in his career, his gang career, I would say. Most definitely, that guy wouldn't blink an eye about killing you.
So there is definitely a connection there between Suge and Poochie, meaning, so far, Greg Kading's theory is holding up. But what about Poole's theory? Is there a connection between Suge Knight and David Mack or Rafael Perez? Or at least, why did Russell Poole believe there was a connection between them? Well, let's go back. On March 18th, 1997, just a week after Biggie was killed, Poole was assigned to the case of the murder of Kevin Gaines. Gaines was an LAPD officer, off-duty, in plain clothes, who got into a road rage incident with another police officer, Frank Liger, who had just left an undercover operation, also in plain clothes. In short, Gaines initiated an argument with Liger, made threats, and in an act of self-defense, when Liger saw Gaines draw a gun, Liger shot Gaines. When Gaines' ID was checked, they found out he was a police officer, and when they ran checks on the car he was driving, they found out it belonged to Suge Knight's ex-wife, Sharitha Knight. So Kevin Gaines is a police officer driving Sharitha Knight's car. Sharitha still works with Suge at Death Row Records, and it's known that police officers are working after hours at Death Row as security. So you can see how just 9 days after Biggie was killed, Russell Poole makes a very weak connection between one LAPD officer and Suge Knight. But still, is there a connection between David Mack, Rafael Perez, and Suge Knight? Did they work as security for Death Row, like the other police officers? Reggie Wright Jr. confirmed in an interview on Street TV that as owner of Rightway Security, the company that provided security for Death Row, that David Mack and Rafael Perez never worked for Rightway Security. He did give the names of other people that worked security for Death Row via Rightway Security, including Kevin Hackey, Frank Alexander, Michael Moore, along with some other police officers.
David Mack, Rafael Perez, and Sammy Martin were never on the payroll of Rightway or Death Row.
Never. My payroll have been audited and everything. It was only two LAPD cops that worked for me maybe more than once. 3 total. One was Kenneth Sutton. He worked one time at a video shoot. David Love. He maybe worked at the 2 or 3 different video shoots. And then this guy named Rich McCauley. Kenneth Archer, Marcus Thompson, Frank Alexander, your Kevin Hackey, your Leslie Golden, Cooper Hagan, my boy Cedric Storey, Al Giddens.
And also, there are no photographs of you or Suge with any of these 3 officers, right?
Nah, but forget photographs, because we might be smart enough to stay out of the pictures and stuff. Show me phone records. Anywhere.
And Reggie makes a good point in that video. You can see in these pictures Kevin Hackey in the background behind Suge and Tupac at various events that Kevin Hackey was working security. That would be expected, since there are so many pictures taken of celebrities at events and their security is usually standing quite close to them. This is also the case with other security guards that work for Death Row that Reggie mentioned, like Frank Alexander and Michael Moore, seen here and here. So surely, if David Mack and Rafael Perez worked security at Death Row, or even if they just hung around Death Row like the rest of Suge's blood entourage, there would be pictures of them in the background also, right? Well, again, there are plenty of pictures of the Bloods members who hung around Death Row. Here's Heron with Tupac, here's Neckbone with Tupac and Suge, here's Trayvon Lane with Tupac and Suge, here's Hendog, the creator of the Death Row logo at Death Row offices, and here's Buntry with Suge and Tupac the night Tupac got shot in Las Vegas. But as much as I've searched, I can't find any pictures of David Mack or Rafael Perez hanging around Suge or any of the Death Row people. There have even been people that claim that they saw David Mack at the Peterson Museum the night Biggie got shot. That's even more ridiculous, given that was the after party to the Source Awards with lots of celebrities there and photographers capturing the event. Given how high profile David Mack and Rafael Perez have become due to their corrupt activities, as well as their supposedly being linked to the murder of Biggie, if anyone had pictures of Mack or Perez connecting them with Suge Knight or Death Row, they would have published them or sold them to the tabloids, right? Because they'd be worth a lot of money and would raise a lot of eyebrows. But there doesn't seem to be any. So again, where's the connection between Suge Knight and David Mack or Rafael Perez, if any, according to Russell Poole, who started this whole idea? Well, in August 1997, after the Kevin Gaines incident and 5 months after Biggie's death, LAPD officer David Mack robs a bank. Eventually, police search Mack's house and find a mid-90s model Chevy Impala parked in Mack's garage, similar to the one witnesses say Biggie's shooter was driving. They also find gecko bullets, similar to those the killer used to shoot Biggie. Okay, to be fair to Russell Poole, those two items could be a connection between David Mack and Biggie's death, but even that's circumstantial. Firstly, the gecko ammunition, which has been claimed to be rare, was not rare at all. It was sold in 14 shops in Southern California alone. Plus, after Tupac's death and the rise of gang violence in Compton, gecko ammunition was found in raids of homes belonging to gang members. Secondly, regarding the Impala Mack had, not only were there thousands of those Impalas around LA, but Keefe D, who was initially a suspect in Biggie's death, also owned a similar Impala. Suge Knight himself owned one too, seen here. Oh, and most importantly, so did Greg Kading's suspect, Poochie. Nevertheless, how does finding the car and bullets at Mack's house connect David Mack with Suge Knight? Well, we need to also remember that around that time, there was a lot of accusations against the LAPD regarding corruption. The most notable was the Rampart scandal that Rafael Perez was a key figure of. So it appears that first, Poole connects Mack and Perez together. They both worked in the crash unit and were known to be good friends. Secondly, does Russell Poole just assume that the off-duty police working at Death Row must all be shady, since Suge is connected to shady people, and since Mack and Perez were both corrupt cops, they must be connected to Suge and Death Row as well? Well, it's pretty weak, but it seems that part of it is as simple as that. It was assumed that Mack and Perez were not just corrupt cops, but they were even members of the Bloods gang as well. These pictures show David Mack and Rafael Perez wearing red, making hand gestures which resembles behavior of the Bloods gang members, much like Suge Knight, who quite often wore red and made similar hand gestures when in the presence of his known blood associates. So what's the conclusion here? There is clearly a connection between Suge Knight and Poochie in the Greg Kading theory, but there really isn't a connection here between David Mack, Rafael Perez, and Suge Knight, like in the Russell Poole theory. Nothing is factual, it's all circumstantial, but you can understand why Russell Poole would have fixated on this idea and look for any excuse to support his thoughts. So at this stage of comparing the two theories, when we have tried to find a connection between Suge Knight and the alleged suspects of both theories, the Greg Kading theory is proving valid, but the Russell Poole theory is not. But surely, a respected police officer like Russell Poole, with years of experience, would not jump to such a conclusion without significant evidence to back it up. Well, no. Russell Poole did rely on one other thing to try to make his case, and those were statements from informants, many of them jailhouse informants. Join me for the next episode where we look into the various statements made by people regarding the Biggie case that both Greg Kading used for his theory as well as the ones that Russell Poole used for his theory. We'll break them down to see which ones make sense, which ones are logical, and which ones have merit and can be believed. Maybe these statements will show the connection to Suge Knight for the Russell Poole theory, or maybe they won't.